before Meghan Markle has boarded a single flight, before one camera has clicked at Heathrow, before a single frame of footage exists of her setting foot back on British soil, she has reportedly already assembled a PR team. Not to manage a crisis that broke last week. Not in response to some scandal that blindsided her, but preemptively, proactively, before the visit has even been confirmed with a date. Now pause on that for a second. Because the story of why someone would do that, why a public figure builds a reputation management operation before she even enters the room, tells you almost everything you need to know about where she currently stands and where she hopes to go. This is not a hit piece. This is not an opinion dressed up as journalism. This is an honest, clear-eyed look at what is actually happening, why it matters, and what it is likely to mean for everyone involved, including the British public, the royal family, and Meghan herself. Multiple British and American outlets have reported that Meghan has engaged a team of PR specialists ahead of a planned return to the United Kingdom. The goal, according to sources familiar with the matter, is described simply: to improve her standing with the British public before she arrives. That is a legitimate goal. There is nothing wrong with wanting to rebuild a relationship with an audience that has grown skeptical of you. Public figures do it. Corporations do it. Politicians do it. The question is not whether image management is acceptable. It is. The question is whether image management alone can do what only genuine change can accomplish. And that is where things get complicated. Meghan's relationship with the British public has been strained for years. The Oprah interview in 2021 made allegations that sparked enormous controversy on both sides of the Atlantic. The Netflix documentary and the memoir Spare added layers that many observers found difficult to reconcile with other known accounts of events. Each release generated conversation. Each conversation generated division. And over time, a significant portion of the British public settled into a position of deep skepticism, not hostility for its own sake, but a wariness that comes from feeling that the narrative they were being sold did not always line up with what they could see for themselves. You cannot hire your way out of that kind of accumulated doubt. PR firms are extraordinarily good at many things: shaping coverage, coordinating media timing, placing favorable stories, managing the optics of specific moments. What they cannot do is manufacture the one quality that actually moves public opinion at a deep level: authenticity. That has to be earned the hard way, through consistency and time. No team of consultants, however talented, can shortcut that process. If the planned UK visit reads as a managed exercise, if every moment feels choreographed, every access point feels like a transaction, every emotional beat lands like a scripted scene, the British public will sense it immediately. And the response will not be warm. The timing of this UK announcement did not land in a vacuum. It arrived in the same news cycle as a separate story that deserves serious attention: reports that Meghan's lifestyle brand, as ever, is sitting on a significant volume of unsold inventory. Figures cited by industry observers range widely. Some put the unsold stock at somewhere between $5 and $10 million at retail value. Others, accounting for the full product range including limited edition items, pushed that estimate considerably higher. The detail that sharpened the urgency of these reports is that some of those products carry expiration dates. Perishable goods, including food items that were part of the brand's original launch, are not sitting in a warehouse indefinitely while the market corrects. They are moving toward a date after which they cannot be sold at all. This is a genuinely serious business problem. Not a marketing blip. Not a rough quarter. Perishable unsold inventory represents capital that cannot be recovered if it expires. For any entrepreneur, that is a pressure that concentrates the mind and accelerates decision-making. Now, does the timing of a UK return relate to the urgency of solving that business problem? It is a fair question. There is a documented history of the Sussex brand benefiting commercially from proximity to royal adjacency. Coverage generated by a high-profile UK trip inevitably drives search interest, social engagement, and media attention that flows back toward whatever commercial venture is active at the time. The newsletter that followed news of the UK return plans was widely noted. It featured language about summer gatherings, hostess gifts, and specific product recommendations. That is not inherently improper. Lifestyle brands send promotional content. That is what they do. But the sequencing, royal family news followed almost immediately by product promotion, invites questions about how interconnected these two tracks really are. We are not in a position to read anyone's intentions. But we can observe the pattern, and the pattern is consistent enough to warrant asking. There is a third dimension to this story that has received less attention than it deserves, and it involves Meghan's father, Thomas Markle Sr. Thomas Markle has had a difficult several years. He suffered a serious health event before Meghan's wedding, a heart attack that left him unable to attend the ceremony. He has since given a number of media interviews that were widely criticized, including by observers who were otherwise sympathetic to Meghan's position. His relationship with his daughter has been publicly estranged for years. More recently, reports have emerged that he has returned to California after living with his son Thomas Jr. He has faced significant health challenges, including a serious medical procedure. His situation is, by any measure, difficult. The question being asked in certain royal commentator circles is whether this situation could become part of the UK visit narrative. Specifically, whether a public reconciliation with her ailing father might be presented as part of a broader story of grace, forgiveness, and family healing. We want to be careful here, because we genuinely do not know what Meghan's intentions are toward her father. What we do know is that their estrangement has been long, painful, and conducted largely in public. What we know is that reconciliation, if it happens, will be observed with enormous scrutiny by a public that has watched this relationship fracture in real time. If a reconciliation occurs that feels genuine, quiet, and private, conducted without fanfare and without cameras, it would be meaningful. It would be the kind of thing that actually shifts perception, because it would not appear designed to shift perception. If it occurs in a way that feels timed, staged, or released through friendly media channels as a curated moment, the public will notice. They will notice, and they will draw their own conclusions about what it actually represents. The path to genuine rehabilitation runs through genuine change, not through the appearance of change. The difference between the two is usually obvious to everyone except the person trying to make it. Reports indicate that Archie and Lilibet may be part of this UK trip. That matters, because it changes the dynamics around what the palace can reasonably do in response. The king, whatever his private feelings about the ongoing situation with Harry and Meghan, is also a grandfather. The prospect of his grandchildren being in the country, and not seeing them places him in an uncomfortable position. Meeting creates opportunities for any private moment to become public content, as reportedly happened after a previous encounter at Clarence's house, where details of what was described as an emotional private conversation ended up in the press with remarkable speed. Not meeting risks optics of a grandfather refusing to see his own grandchildren. That is a genuine trap, regardless of who laid it intentionally or accidentally. Sources quoted by the Daily Mail used the word manipulation. Others described it as using the children to force an audience with the royal family that would otherwise not be granted. The language of several sources, including some described as sympathetic to Harry and Meghan's general position, was strikingly harsh. When your own allies describe a tactic as a new low, That is a signal worth taking seriously. Prince William, by all accounts, has decided that any engagement at this point carries risks he is not willing to accept. Sources close to the Prince of Wales have indicated his position is firm and unlikely to change for this visit. The palace, broadly, appears to have reached a state of what one source described as weary resignation, a recognition that engaging produces exploitation and refusing produces unflattering coverage, and that there is no good option, only less damaging ones. Meghan Markle is a talented, intelligent woman who built a significant public profile from nothing, navigated one of the world's most scrutinized institutions, and has repeatedly demonstrated the ability to generate enormous attention for whatever she is working on. These are real skills. They are not nothing. But there appears to be a consistent gap between the scale of her ambitions and the foundation on which those ambitions are being built. You cannot launch a lifestyle brand premised on domestic warmth and gracious living if the dominant public narrative about you is one of family conflict and institutional grievance. The two things cancel each other out in the consumer's mind. You cannot rebuild trust with an audience by managing the perception of trustworthiness. You rebuild trust by being trustworthy, consistently, over time, and allowing that reality to speak for itself. The PR team can coordinate the messaging. They cannot create the underlying substance. The British public is not uniquely hostile or unfair. They are, in fact, a public that has demonstrated remarkable capacity to forgive public figures who show genuine change. They welcome back celebrities who went through very public failures. They rehabilitated politicians who admitted real wrongdoing. They extended grace to members of the royal family who went through genuinely difficult periods and came out the other side with something resembling humility. What they have not done, and what they are unlikely to do, is extend that grace to someone who appears to view every family relationship as a potential asset, every private moment as potential content, and every reconciliation as a potential headline. The pattern is what matters. Individual moments can be managed. Patterns cannot. If this visit is to accomplish anything real and lasting, it needs to happen in a way that surprises people, that runs counter to everything they have come to expect. Not a curated emotional moment. Not a timed newsletter. Not a managed encounter with a father delivered to friendly photographers. Something genuinely quiet. Something that does not immediately become content. Whether that is what is being planned, we do not know. What we do know is that if it follows the established pattern, coordinated, commercially timed, media managed to within an inch of its life, it will produce the exact opposite of the result it is seeking. The summer of 2026 may become a turning point for Harry and Meghan. But turning points require genuine turns, not carefully managed pivots executed in front of a hired audience. The British public is not looking for a perfect version of Meghan Markle. They were not looking for that in 2018 either. What they are looking for, what any audience looks for, is evidence that what they are seeing is real. The crisis is not the PR. The crisis is the gap between the image and the reality. And no team in any boardroom, however talented and however experienced, has ever closed the gap from the outside. That work, if it is going to happen, has to start somewhere else entirely. Sound off in the comments. What do you think will actually happen when this visit takes place? And if you are new here, subscribe. This story is far from finished.